I'm Karl Hammer in Montpelier, Vermont, and I'm the director of the Vermont Compost Company. We make compost and potting soils for mostly for commercial organic greenhouse growers. We, as part of that, have a flock of laying hens that we feed on farm and community residuals. So, our chickens forage out of doors every day of the year for their livelihood. So these birds do not get fed indoors, or they don't actually get fed. They forage for their sustenance every day of the year in Vermont. Our goals here are to, of course, make eggs. That's a primary product here. We ship about 1,000 dozen eggs a month. But we feed these birds without buying them grain. I'm very convinced that we squander enough things in the United States to let the 285 million hens that are in cages and eating grain out and let them eat squandered residuals and not live in cages. Well, most egg-laying chickens have their beaks cut off so they won't cannibalize each other. We need beaks so that they can do what they do. Most hens are living in cages, 8 or 12 birds in a cage. They are usually living in a place with no daylight, red lit, and they don't live very long either. They typically only have an 11-month life, and we have some birds here that are 6 or 7 years old that are still laying eggs. If 15% of the United States population, that's 40 million people, if each of those persons undertook to keep 6 hens laying, so that would mean a family of 4 would undertake to keep 24 hens laying. And if each of those people undertook to keep 12 broilers, there would be no poultry industry anymore. That's all it takes. If 15% of us undertook to keep 6 hens in lay and 12 broilers, that would replace all of the industrial chicken production, egg and meat, in this country. I was very enthralled by manure. When I was 9 years old, this was a very different world, Vermont. There were lots and lots of, most pieces of land had people out standing around holding tools and among their animals, and I wanted to be a farmer, and we were on a 6-cow or 8-cow hill farm in Berkshire. So I realized I couldn't be really a dairy farmer. I started growing vegetables. I used cow manure as the main motive force for my vegetables, and I started making compost at that time, and then became an out-of-the-closet commercial composter in about 1987. So here, where apartment dwellers in town bring their food residuals, and here's a barrel of compost to cover food residuals. So when you bring your offering, you inoculate it and keep it from getting smelly like that. We live in a relatively squeamish society. Manure is not something that people talk about frequently. In fact, talking about manure, about rotten things, about rotting, makes many people very, very uncomfortable. Of course, that camera doesn't have an olfactory capability, but the smell here is not particularly overwhelming, is it?
Not at all.
We get the food residuals now from, I think, 52 supermarkets, restaurants, schools, state government cafeteria, insurance companies, military academy. And we blend that with residuals from dairy farms and horse farms. So we're bringing together always at least 3 kinds of manure. We support, by this enterprise, a lot of food production enterprises. Right now there are 200 businesses in Vermont alone that buy our potting soils to start their own horticulture. I should say I have farmers in Iowa and Illinois and Indiana and Wisconsin and Minnesota depending on this little project. You're looking at a 5-acre piece of a 50-acre piece of land. Our composts are informed by our horticultural goals. So while we do utilize residuals, we always ask the question about what the soil and horticulture or plant consequences of the materials we use are. And we don't use materials that we don't think are desirable from a soil or horticulture point of view. Many compost projects are more informed by the need to manage residuals than horticultural or soil goals. So I would say that's a fundamental mission difference. Our goal is to make the best possible compost from a soil or plant perspective as we can, and we select our ingredients with that in mind. We use, in terms of our machinery, we use canola, hydraulic oils, we use food machine grease, we use biodiesel as much as is practical, which right now is about 80% of our fuel use is recycled biodiesel. Our spark ignition machines are running E85 ethanol now, and we hope to develop an ethical ethanol stream based on Jerusalem artichokes. We're starting tuber replication for that project now. Montpelier lives by food that is trucked from far away. This is food production here in this town that can gravity feed to this town. So we want gravity feed food. The land is the solar collecting fabric, and we can eat from it. It's quite recent that we people all over the world don't eat locally. That's very recent. Really trying to reimagine our place in ecologies, and it's an emergency that we reimagine it capably and soon. It should be plausible for young people to aspire to careers feeding their communities. Our goal is that all of the parts of the process support the other parts. Yeah, I think teaching is the key. You know, it's about the children. The 5th graders get it. Every school child in the city of Montpelier comes here in 4th and 5th grade. Kids come here, they get off the bus, they bring the food scraps, they see the chickens eat the food scraps, they harvest an egg, they go in the greenhouse, they hold a baby chick, and they see plants growing. By 5th grade, they're militants. They see a video of how chickens are kept, and they know it doesn't have to be that way. They've seen it. If you can get up here, this is actually the best.
Sorry, I'm touching your food, guys.
Sorry, we should have warned you. Maybe Buzz did warn you.
Didn't. It's okay. It's all good. I'm almost up. You may have to help me down.
Well, down is easy part. Easier.
Oh, yeah?